actually recently learned that Hanauma Bay was part of olaupoko, and that's where I grew up. So I'll share a little story. So my name is Alana. I'm the events manager at Civil Beat, and I'm named after my dad, Alan. So you just take Alan and you add an A, and then you get my name, Alana. And he also used to call me Alan Jr. when he would introduce me to his friends or colleagues, so I'm used to that. And growing up, my dad used to work for the city and county of Honolulu. And he used to manage a chunk of land or a chunk of beach parks from about Makapu'u to Ainahaina. And that would include the popular tourist destination of Hanauma Bay. And so the Hanauma Bay then isn't like the one you know now with its reservation system and its tourist fees and the education center. It was overrun with tourists. It was the early 90s, and they would leave their cigarette butts in the sand. They would leave peas in the water and loaves of bread and to feed the fish. And I admit we did it too sometimes. But then my dad stepped in as the first manager. And so I like to call Hanauma Bay my dad's third daughter. So I'm the oldest. I have a younger sister, Liana. And then there's Hanauma Bay, who I also think might be his favorite. But I also have to say that Bay helped raise me. So my dad used to often have to take us to work after he picked us up from school or on the weekends. And so he would drop me off with whoever was willing to hang out with us or watch us. And so I would spend so much time going up and down the trolley, just going up and down that steep hill, sitting next to the operator and talking story. And sometimes he'd let me stand in the back and hold on and while we were going up, and that was super fun. And I was also the youngest volunteer because I would sit at the table on the sand with all the other retirees in their blue shirt with the uhu on it. And if I was lucky, I would get to go swimming. And he would drop me off with the lifeguards, and I had this huge bag of beach toys stashed under their tower. And I would get to play with the toys, and I would get to go in the water if I was right in front of the tower. So it wasn't always fun, because I remember loathing having to go to the bay sometimes for a quick stop, because nothing was ever quick with my dad. And every person he would see on the way driving in, he'd talk to and have to catch up on, and then we'd keep going, and it would just be like hours from what I remember when I was little. And he used to also keep this police scanner on the dining room table, and it was on all day and all night, and my mom and I would go and turn it off sometimes, and he wouldn't realize until he would come back and realize it was turned off. But he would listen to see if any police calls were made to one of the beach parks that he managed. And he would often show up before the police officers would get there. So he was pretty good at his job. So my dad got to go to the beach every day for work for over 20 years. And he knows that beach so well. He knows every piece of coral, where the honus are, where the eel lives, where the sharks are. And yes, there are sharks, so, tell the tourists that there's sharks in Hanauma Bay. And one of the things that was part of his job is he would take people snorkeling and show him what we still call the VIP tour. And he has taken royalty, celebrities, students, veterans, anyone who asked him snorkeling in the bay. And one of the people that he's taken multiple times is former President Barack Obama. And so one of the times when he was president, I got to volunteer, my sister and I got to volunteer on the snorkeling team. And we were out snorkeling around in the reef, and it was kind of a rough day. President Obama was surrounded by his Secret Service, and they were armed underwater. They had these special vests. And it was kind of a rough day. We're near the coral, and so he decides, I'm just gonna go in. So he goes in, and my dad is there with some other volunteers. And these days were special because the Secret Service could also invite their families and their kids to come be a part of the family day. So my dad's there with volunteers, and the other kids are all looking at something in the water. And one of the volunteers had brought out a taco, and all the kids are looking at it going, oh, go, oh my gosh. And President Obama walks up behind them and he looks at them and he goes, hey, it doesn't look too happy. I think we should put it back. And all the kids just ignore him. He's like, guys, we're not supposed to take it out of the water. We got to leave it. Like, put it back. And none of the kids can even hear him. And he starts walking up the beach near where I'm standing, and I'm looking at him, and he says, no one ever listens to me. And I kind of giggle, but in my head, I'm going, did the president just say no one ever listens to me? So that bay has been through so many changes over the decades. And it was one of Hawaii's first nature preserves and is used as an example for marine preservation all over the world. My dad's gone all over to the Philippines, to Indonesia, to help them preserve other areas, popular tourist destinations. And I wish I was around because I hear about these days where you could drive down to the beach and you could camp on the beach and go fishing and no one was there. And I wish I was around for those days, but I'm just grateful that that bay got protected for us and for my son's generation so that he can see the bay that raised me. So, thank you.